don't know what to do. And my aunt and uncle just said, Jill, just pray. Let's just pray.
Yeah.
And I don't remember my exact words. I just know that at that moment there, God did something.
Sure.
He came in and took over. Because guess what? And I gave him all I had. And I didn't have it. I thought I had nothing to give. I had nothing to give.
Sure.
I was desperate. And he intervened in my life and then started to intervene in every aspect of our household.
Sure.
And it was incredible. Because, you know, it wasn't as if Hunter's suffering stopped. And we prayed for healing.
Sure.
No,
Sure.
I believe that God heals.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely believe that God heals.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole nother story. But I don't know if you're going to ask a question to prompt that story. So I'll see. I'll hold that. I'll hold that one. Sorry.
Before I ask my next question, let me just go back to. Let me lead in the whole atmosphere changing was suddenly you're moving from Hunter dying to Hunter living, and Hunter's diagnosis says 14 months and you're out, at least by 2 years, and he lived 8.5 years, right?
Amazing.
So there's an amazing journey here that leads to healing. And how did your view of healing change through all of this, Jill? Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
He didn't ask that in the first service, so thanks.
Sorry.
Well, initially, obviously, you know, and we didn't, you know God as you know him through his word. He has revealed himself through his word. So I had to learn. I wanted to know this God. So I started to devour his word, and I believed that he could heal. But God, in his incredible grace, helped me to see that we needed healing more than Hunter did.
Mm-hmm.
That our family needed a soul healing more than Hunter needed physical healing. And if it was going to take Hunter's suffering to bring all of us to Jesus' suffering, that's hard to receive that. And at the same time, God is so gracious and good to reveal that to me.
Sure.
As I was seeking after and praying for Hunter's healing, and I actually had a dream, and you read it. I'm sure you read it.
Yeah.
But we probably don't have time for the dream, do we? It's
Yeah,
okay. We won't share that.
They can read the book.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
that's
right,
a good tag. They can pick up your copy after the service, and you can find out about that. Yeah.
You're the pastor, and you're in charge here.
Yeah.
But, you know, everything started to change, though.
Sure.
Everything. My view of life itself, I mean, just the gift of a very breath.
Yeah.
God was revealing so much to us in the
Sure.
midst of suffering.
Sure.
And, you know, I'm in awe that I can take my son's suffering to a place where the only suffering that really ultimately made a difference for all of us in this room, to Christ's suffering.
Yeah.
And that I can find hope in that.
Yeah.
That I can find hope in Hunter's suffering because of Jesus' suffering.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
huge.
Oh, that is big, and that's where I wanted to, Jim, with you, because I mean, you got to get the book because we can't cover everything here. God and that team brought around special people like Robert, for example. The girls' impact just was phenomenal to me, watching them help with caregiving and treating their dollies so that they were doing. I mean, there's so many things there. But Jim, I want to get back to you for a minute because you're out on this other journey. You're trying to figure out how to handle this. You're angry. Your dreams have been shattered, all that. You're trying to figure that out. You know there's stuff with you guys. You know the same thing she does. Yep. You're just trying to deal with it a different way. But then August 5th comes, right? And how, you know, walk us through that a little bit.
I'll try.
Yeah.
For us, even though through the midst of Jill's running to the Lord, I kept running further and further away. And I still never came to the grasp early on that Hunter was there for a reason. All I know was I had a son born on my birthday, and that was taken away from me. And with everything around it, every time you step out your front door, every time you confront somebody, not every time, but a lot of times, it just kept bringing me further and further away. And then, of course, August 5th came, and Joe and I were, at home with our two daughters, and Hunter was at Grandma and Grandpa's house because he loved going there because they had a swimming pool, and he loved being in the water. Jill and Grandma used to give Hunter a jacuzzi every single night. 365 days a year, Hunter would be in the hot tub for an hour and a half every night because it helped relax him. Well, he loved the swimming pool. And it was about 5 in the morning, and we got a phone call. And, as parents, as family, when your phone rings at those hours, first thing that goes through your mind is what's wrong, something's wrong. And I answered the phone. It was, I can't remember if it was Joe's mother or father. I think it was the father saying that they have to take Russ Hunter to the hospital. And to make a long story short, I remember handing Jill the phone and Jill saying, don't take him to Warsaw Hospital. Take him to Children's Hospital. They know how to deal with Hunter there, because we've been to Children's Hospital dozens and dozens of times, and thank God for Children's Hospital here in Buffalo. But the last thing I heard was Children's Hospital. Well, as Jill was getting ready to go, I had to wait for a neighbor to come over to watch our 2 daughters. And then I was going to head to the hospital. And of course, Jill's already gone, and neighbor came. So I automatically get in my truck and I'm heading to Children's Hospital. So I get into the emergency room and I'm waiting and waiting. I went up to the lady and I said, excuse me, can you tell me when Hunter Kelly's getting here? And she didn't understand what I was talking about. And I'm saying, yeah, he's coming here. So she said, well, let me check on it. And she went and checked on it, and she already came out. She says, he is not coming here. He's going to Warsaw Hospital. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I had no clue where Warsaw Hospital was. And here I am in downtown Buffalo. So I jumped in my truck and I'm driving, trying to find my way. And I eventually found out how to get close by. And I'm driving back these back roads, and it's taking me forever, and I'm getting frustrated. And I'm following another car. It's going pretty fast in these back roads, and all of a sudden a police officer drives past me. And I look in my side mirror, and I see him turn around. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Don't be pulling me over. And I thought, well, he's not going to pull me over. The guy in front of me is speeding. He's going to pull him over. So as he turns around, he gets closer, the lights go on, and I move over just a little bit to make him so he can go around and pull the other guy over. He pulls right behind me. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I put it in park, and I'm getting my driver's license, and I'm frantic. I'm wanting to get into the hospital, and he comes up and he said, oh, thank God it's you, Mr. Kelly. He said, follow me. I'm here to take you to the hospital. I'm like, good. And the Lord is good. So that's that part. So I'm flying down the back country roads. But wait, this is not the good, this is the bad part. So as we're going back the roads, we're flying, going through, we pull up to the emergency room at Warsaw Hospital, and I had a gentleman come out, and I can't remember this 100%, but a gentleman came out and says, Mr. Kelly, we'll park your car for you. And I said, no, don't worry about it, I'll park. He said, no, you need to go in right away. So I get out, put in the car, and as I'm walking through the doors, I was greeted at the doors by 1 or 2 doctors, and they said, we're sorry, your son has already passed away. And from that point on, I get to spend time with my son by myself, and he did go to heaven, but from that point on, after we left the hospital, Jill and I rode home, and that was a point in our life where we started really going apart, and that's when I really started, really my faith was hurt. I said, why? Why does this have to happen? Sorry.
It's all right. I know you don't cry, so I'm just going to take them and put them over here, okay? So, it's not allowed.
Tears, I'm not crying. So on our way home, I don't think we said very many words to each other, but all I know is I was mad.
Yeah,
sure. Why? And from that point on, I went one way and continued to go further away from God, and Jill seeked God more than anything. And that was when, as time went on, our marriage was not doing very well. I grieved my way, Jill grieved her way. And one thing we've learned through all this is men and women handle things differently. And also knew that communication between husband and wife are so important. Yeah. Through our course of our marriage, we did not communicate. Mm-hmm. We did not share very many things with each other. I thought I knew everything about my wife. I knew nothing. I knew that, well, I didn't know Jesus. Thank God I do now. But through all those times, I really, when Jill wrote this book, before it went to hard copy, we had to sit down, her and I, and we had to relive some of the things that we never talked about. And some of the things that we shared with each other was tough, was very difficult. And as I started to read the book, and as I started to realize some of the things my wife went through that I had no clue that she went through, I started hurting even more inside, knowing that, where were you when she needed you? But we never talked. We never sat down, and she never told me. She would always confide in her mother. I had my brothers. I had friends, but it wasn't the same. Husbands and wives need to communicate, number one. And if you need help, get it. We needed help, and we sought it, and we got it. And I know when it all came about for me was, knowing that my son's gone. I may never see him again. Yeah. And I knew the only way to see my son again was to change the way I was living. It took my mother-in-law confront me. It took my father-in-law tell me to change. And
sorry.
And knowing that I had 2 daughters that I love, and I knew if I didn't change my ways, I was going to lose them. Yeah. Yeah. So I manned up, and I met with our pastor, Pastor Rich, and I met with my mother and father-in-law and sat there and told him that I needed a change. I needed a change in heart. I needed a change in faith, that I was missing something I desperately needed. Even though I thought I had it, I didn't have it. And I wanted to see my son again. I wanted to walk into my house and look at my daughters and have my daughters look at their dad with respect. And for all those guys out there, I mean, you can be as tough as you want. You can be a football player. You can be a truck driver. You can be a construction worker. My problem at the beginning was I have friends that are not Christians, and I was worried about what they would think. It doesn't matter what they think. What matters is what's in your heart. What can I do to make this situation better? What can I do to change my heart? Because by me changing my heart, I've already changed some of my friends. And if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the good Lord, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Amen. I love this lady beside me. I love this lady beside me more than the day I married her, because through our son's suffering, he brought us closer together. And if it wasn't for our son, we would not be on the journey we are today. We would be a wreck. A wreck that may never be cured, a wreck that would be uncontrollable. And God, I'm so blessed now, because the day that I told Jill and the day that I confronted my wife, the day I confessed that I wasn't the husband that she married, that I needed to change my life, I never knew what the word free, being free meant. I've heard it, never thought about it, never really thought I'd ever feel it. But when I changed my life and when I felt free, boy, you got to experience it. And if you haven't, boy, you cannot write it on paper. You can only feel it in your heart. And the day that I felt it, I prayed, why couldn't this have happened to me a long time ago? Because the feeling that I had in my heart, the feeling I had in my heart for my wife and my daughters and the people around me, I do now realize, and I do now know why when people say that I am a chosen father, that my son is a chosen little boy, that we can make a difference for other families out there. And when you have families walking up to you, holding their babies in their arms, saying, thank you. Our daughter, our son is here because of what your foundation has done, what you've been able to do in your foundation. Now I know why the good Lord is in my heart. I know now why our son was a chosen little boy. Yeah. He may never run out on a football field like his daddy did, hear those crazy wild Buffalo Bill fans, but I'll tell you what, he's going to hear greater things. He's going to hear the cheers from parents, because he's going to save thousands and thousands of little boys' lives, and he's going to give them a chance to dream and set goals like I was able to do as a little boy.
Amen. Amen. That's great.